What is up, guys? FrugalBC, and really interesting news. Hedera touting its partnership, its integration with Chainlink, something I think a lot of Algorand people have been hoping for. Bank of Australia officially live with the Project Acacia infrastructure. Number of use cases going to be tested in a pilot right now, and we got some news around, some news around Messina.one and some staked algo. We're going to give you a solution of how to fix that today. We're going to cover that in our Algorand segment. And hopefully, if we have time, we're going to watch one of these videos. I haven't decided which one. Actually, I think I'm going to watch the Staci Warden interview with a pretty major YouTube channel. So we'll get into that. There's a Mark one as well, the CMO. I think it's a CTO in here, which is wrong in my notes, but we'll get into all that on today's FrugalBC. How's everyone doing out there? We got Vukas. I apologize. I cannot. Vukas. We'll just stay with Vukas. We'll go that far. Vuka. Maybe it's Vukasin. Milicevic. I'm sorry. I'm trying my best. I promise. Saying likes, yes, let's get those likes up. If you like Algorand, you like Hedera, you like crypto, yeah, give us a big like button. Hit that like button, and remember, you don't have to smash it. You can actually just press it ever so gently, and it works just fine that way too. It's okay. I've tried my best, man. I promise. But I appreciate you being here. Appreciate you being here. We've had some pretty big audiences lately. That's really fun to see. Nice to see the channel growing. If he says, I know it's hard. I appreciate that. Green Blue says, I might re-custody everything on platforms outside of my own wallet. Love to hear your thinking around that. Let me know. Let me know what you mean. Yeah, the Messina one's going to be really interesting. I'd forgotten all about them. And I'll tell you my personal story around them too. It kind of goes into Opus, which is, a project that built its, used Algorand funds to build it and then left the ecosystem, which I always find irritating. I think every chain should go multi-chain. I think that's a smart thing to do. But what irritates me is if you take money from the Algorand Foundation, take money from Algorand holders, build something on Algorand, then migrate it over to another platform, and then you ditch the original platform. I don't think that's fair. I think it's fine to go multi-chain. Like I love what folks did. I think that was super smart. You start on Algorand, you expand outward, but you keep Algorand. They didn't stop doing things on Algorand. I think that's the way you do it. So anyway, lots to get into today. We got a lot of news to get into. A lot of I haven't even looked at markets this morning. I'll be honest. Like I was following it yesterday. I was following it the day before, but this morning didn't even look at them yet. So I have no idea what I'm walking into. Every day, Algonaut in the chat saying hello. Welcome to the show. Good to have you here. And just a reminder, we are live on YouTube, on X, on Kick, and on Twitch. So you can find us on any of those platforms. You can also listen on the go by going to your favorite podcast app, whether that's Apple or Spotify. I use Overcast. I like that one. There's tons of them out there. And you search FrugalBC and you can find us. You can listen to us on the go, which is really fun. So it's a new project this year. There's only about 20 episodes up so far. And it's starting to get some listenership. By the way, if you're listening on one of those platforms, give us a 5-star review. We would love that. That is a free way to support the channel, as is hitting the like button, which we always appreciate. And as I always say, you just press it gently. You don't have to smash it. If you want to smash it, that's up to you. I'm just saying you don't have to. Let's see. Now, before I go, I want to tell you guys I'm building some investigative tools on the Algorand blockchain using Codex, and it's kind of neat. It's a neat experience. I know a little bit of coding, some Python stuff. I have some degree of comfort working in terminal. I kind of get it basically how it works, and that's enough to do this. It's so cool, though. I was using ChatGPT before to just kind of tell me what to build, copy and paste, and, create the files, blah, blah, blah. But man, Codex, I use ChatGPT. I say, I want to do this. Tell me what to tell Codex. It gives me the prompt. I put the prompt in, and it just builds and it tests, and you watch it in real time doing the testing and the building and making, and you get done, you try it out, and there it is. It works. Pretty neat stuff. So I'm looking forward to doing more on-chain investigations on Algorand. I think that'll be a lot of fun. And, it just occurred to me I could have used that today, but I have to play around with it more and get some comfort with it. So we'll be keep an eye out ahead, because we're going to be doing some pretty interesting stuff, I think. But anyway, why don't we just get right to... As we'll get right to the markets, because I want to get through some stuff today. And let's go to... Here we go. Everything kind of pulling back a little bit with some exceptions, a few exceptions, not much. We're at 20 on the fear and greed index, just over the line between fear and extreme fear. Market cap sitting around 2.3 trillion. And I always like to put this in context, the market, a 2.3 trillion market cap, that sounds like a lot, and it is, but like the total residential real estate market is like 13 trillion. So just to get a sense of scope, there's also a lot of the top companies in the US are actually have a higher market cap than that too. So, you could use that as we're early, or it's just not, it hasn't really penetrated completely yet. Everyday Algonaut says the next level is the GitHub Copilot. You should version the code somewhere, then you can create issues and assign it to Opus, Sonnet, Codex, GPT, or other models. Yeah, we'll see. Right now, I'm at the very early stages, and we're gonna keep. I literally just downloaded it yesterday. I paid for the membership, and then I just didn't have time to. I just carved out some time yesterday to start building some tools. So anyway, Bitcoin back under 70,000. I remember we had poked up to, what did we get to? A little under 74, I think, at one point. Ethereum was at 21, almost 22, back to under 2,000. So a little bit of a dip again. Now, is it a dip before we start going back up? I don't know. Anyone doing well on the 24-hour? Let's take a look. By the way, kind of in that no man land between oversold and overbought on the relative strength index, and somewhat weighted toward Bitcoin. Nothing too exciting. River is up 24 hours. I've been seeing that one up there. Humanity Protocol, Pi up a little bit. Meme Core just in the top 5. Nothing really to shake a stick at, excuse me. Yeah, Canton is actually up a little bit. Even Tron up a little bit. Tron is interesting because it has a lot of volume, but there's allegations of fake volume on it. Justin Sun and Tron have just settled with the SEC, I believe. They have to pay some money. But yeah, only one coin on the 24-hour that's in double digits. Everything else in single digits and mostly under 5%. 7-day, I'm guessing it's going to be River again. It is, followed by Humanity Protocol, followed by OKB, then Layer 0, then Pi again. So Pi actually played around with that one back when it was in testing. Green Blue Algo says, just rented a 10 by 10 community garden space, diversifying my survival options. I think that's cool stuff. I got a little, I do a little bit of gardening around the house. It's pretty fun. Jupiter is still at 15% on the week. Kite at 14. Land of Cash says, wow, Ludo high. Yeah, so get some friends catching up in the chat. I like it. Near Protocol at 12%. Hyperliquid 8%. And Chili's at 7, kind of rounding up the top 10. Now, who fell back the worst? Let's see about that. We got Zcash up there. We got Morpho. Yeah, Zcash has been kind of going on the downtrend lately, I've noticed. Athena, it's just a little under 7. Pump Fund is down. Sky, WorldCoin, Chili's, Ethereum's up there, 5%. Jupiter, and then Monero. Now, how about 7%? Monero was just on a pump. Pippin is down 48%, followed by Stable. Stable is one of those ones that seems to be either on the either on the top 10 gainers or top 10 losers. It shows up a lot in both of those. Yeah, Canton is down quite a bit. It might be a good time for me to buy into a little bit of Canton. Polygon down back below 10 cents. I've been trying to lower my buys on Polygon. The revenue has been crazy on Polygon lately. I think that's going to translate to some price action if my thesis is correct, which, it may or may not be. But yeah, World Liberty is on that list. Decred is on that list. That's another one that pops up in one or the other a lot. PayPay down 8.4%. Artificial Super, Intelligence Alliance, KuCoin, and Shiba Inu. I've still got this little moon bag of Shiba Inu sitting in my Coinbase account. Yeah, that's about all that's interesting there. Let's look at Haystack, our channel sponsor. And we're hoping to have them on pretty soon. Big fan of them. Now, here's a weird one. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit, and you can't quite see it. Let me pull this down so you can see it. Meta, you remember Cometa? Which, closed down. It's done. For some reason, had this huge pump, and I don't really know why. It'd be really interesting to see what happened there. That might be one that would be interesting to investigate with my new tools. So maybe I'll do that today, and then I can bring you something Monday. Also, Shosha had a huge pump for whatever reason. I don't really know why. Now, doesn't look like, if you go through the order book, I don't really see any huge numbers. You see some huge sell numbers, which is interesting. But you can only see so many. A lot of them happening 8 hours ago, so last night. Probably why a lot of people are going to take advantage of this pump, so that kind of makes sense. There you go. You can see it a little better. Now, Shosha was a game. They were talking about this game. This company's been around a long time. They were talking about this game that they were creating way back when I first started making videos on Algorand, probably around mid-2021, something like that. I remember one of the YouTube channels I followed and actually interviewed a long time ago, he's not active anymore, was talking about this game, and that was a really long time ago. So what made this thing pump all of a sudden, I'm not really sure. Maybe we'll check it out in our Algorand segment. Otherwise, let me go back to the main thing here. A lot of people paying for the boost, which is interesting. Yeah, Akita's had a really good 7-day. Akita Inu now, this is one of the original meme coins on Algorand. So this one's been around a really long time, and they're building this social media platform. I'm always it sounds like a cool project. I'm always very skeptical of those types of things. I just find that it's really hard to build any kind of social media platform. Even Meta tried it with Threads, and they couldn't do it. But we'll see. I mean, we'll keep an eye out. Oh, we got Y-Cats in the chat. Welcome, Y-Cats. Linda Cash having a nice conversation with Ludo. I like it. Let's see. What else is interesting? Gunna at 7%. This new one, Algorand, with the asterisk. This is because someone from Ethereum mentioned Algorand in a tweet when they were talking about being more secure, upgrades to the system, and they mentioned being more like Algorand, but they put this little asterisk in there. So there's an account on there, Algorand with the asterisk, and they made a coin. F Arcade has been pumping, had a nice week, recovering a lot of its losses. I was down, my bag that had been up 500 was down to low 300s. Now it's getting closer to 400 again. It's one of my little experiments. And in fact, remind me, because I'm going to share my experiment. Jay Quartz has been playing this FAI for a few days. Not sure what that means. Haystack itself, the platform we're on right now, is up 9% on the week, pulling back a little bit, as are most coins. Not really seeing much pumping on the 24-hour. Let's see what's interesting. Yeah, Pheasant Pluckers is at 24% on the 30-day, which is not a lot of platforms include the 30-day. I think that's kind of interesting. I mean, you can go like in Coinbase or CoinMarketCap, you can go pull up the 1 month, but yeah, otherwise not doing much on the 24-hour, up a little bit in the 7-day. Donkey DAO is actually down a bit on the 7-day. Yeah, just not a lot, not a ton to talk about on here. FAI token. Oh, okay. Well, why don't we go to our, I don't think there's a whole lot more to talk about here. Why don't we go on to our Hedera tokens? And like I said, Saucer Swap is not a sponsor of the channel. I hope they become one day. That'd be really cool. And I really wish they had the 7-day on here. They only include the 24. So maybe next time I tweet at them, I will tweet that I think they should do that. Everything nothing terribly exciting. Like we said, HBAR under that 10-cent level again. And I usually don't comment much on like the wrapped coins because they're just the same as the regular ones. We already kind of covered those. Looks like PAC had a nice pop up, 10.47% up on the 24-hour. That is the token from the Hashpack wallet, which is the wallet I use. I tried to get them on the channel when I still had my other streaming thing, and it was like, I don't know. Sometimes like trying to get people on the channel is like pulling teeth. It's so weird because they won't say, they'll say yes, but then it's like they kind of, I don't know. It's hard to explain. They're just really strange. Anyway, yeah, Gib is down almost 5%, as is Da Vinci. Karate down a little bit. Not, again, kind of ignoring the wrapped assets. KBL. Steam down a little bit, Mouth down, everything's just kind of down a little bit. You know, we're just mostly looking for exceptions. Yeah, Jam down another 4%. I'm just trying to look for ones that are interesting to talk about. There really isn't, except, let's see, XPAC is up 11.39%, so also associated with PAC. By the way, I think that's actually supposed to be like an octopus, based on some stuff that they shared. And then our good friend Stickbug, I just like this one. Liquidity is only $541. So low liquidity on that one, but I think it's kind of interesting. I think that's it for our coins, so we can get to our segments. Looks like we got 34 people. How many likes do we got? I don't know. But let's, before we get that segment, let's hit that like button. If you wouldn't mind, like I said, you don't have to smash it. You could just press it gently. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, it's always great to have new subscribers. You can see we go live on Tuesday morning and Friday morning at 10:30 Central Standard Time or thereabouts. Sometimes I'm a little late. Sometimes I'm a little early. And you can check that out Tuesdays and Fridays. If you subscribe, you have the best chance of seeing it. I will say YouTube doesn't do the greatest job of showing it. So I really wish they did a better job of notifying people. I've heard people even have the notification bell on and they don't get notified, which kind of sucks. But, you know, I can't complain because YouTube has been showing my stream to a lot more people. I've had a lot more viewers than ever. So let me set up the stream, and now there's a video, AI bit buzz around. Nice coverage, homie. Thank you. Appreciate that, Jay Quartz. Been doing some hold on a second. Buzz around. Nice coverage, homie. Thank you. Appreciate that, Jay Quartz. Been doing some. Just gonna post the video on X. Yeah, it's funny because like I'm getting way more. I'm starting to get more live viewers on YouTube than I do X, and it used to be flipped. So I kept thinking it would be really nice if they found those ways to monetize that, but now it's on X anyway, so, or it's on YouTube. YouTube is where the audience is anyway, so it's all working out. It's all working out. Let me get my bookmarks pulled up. Land of Cash says we're going to try on Hedera, more people, more traction. Well, you know, it's interesting that you bring that up, Land of Cash, because I've been finding, since I've been covering Hedera more, I've been getting more, I've been getting a lot more viewership. So, the days of rewarded governance on Algorand are over, replaced with staking, but something that was from those days was something called liquid staking. The idea was or liquid governance, excuse me. You could stake your algo through one of these liquid governance platforms, get a different subsidiary token, and then you could use that to do things. And it also was like a guaranteed way that you wouldn't get kicked out of governance. Now, one of the platforms that was offering that was Messina.one. Unfortunately, obviously, the Algorand Foundation wanted to reward staking through their nodes, so they offered rewards in there, which meant the governance rewards went away. But one of the things that kind of got lost in the shuffle was Messina.one. Messina.one was one of the companies where you could do liquid staking, and I had used it. I had tried it. I thought it worked okay, but I just was never a big fan of it. Well, apparently, Messina.one has gone quiet, and people are wondering what to do with their tokens. Let's look at this. And I first saw this from actually DonkeyDAO.algo. Shout out to Donkey. Begums on Algorand sent me one of their donkeys, and so I've been doing fun stuff with that. He writes, "Hey, Messina.one, you guys still around? Your wallet connect is down and validator offline. There is 4 million algo still locked on your site." And let's see. Now, when I checked before, so the last thing, they had a pinned tweet from March 31st of last year, so that's almost a year ago. And a retweet from April. And their last post was from April 23rd, and that's it. So we have not heard much from Messina.one since then. Very, very interesting. So Donkey Dow says, "Hey, D13, is there any chance you can create a front end to allow redeeming of my mAlgo from the contract? Messina is effectively rugged. Members have been trying for months on Discord to get in contact. Validator has been out for a long while now, and Wallet Connect is broken." I mentioned they have not posted in a long time. And we have this little meme, Messina, whoops. Yeah, another rug on Algorand, which is never fun. Now, here's the great thing. There's actually a solution. And I'm not following Donkey Dow. You know what? I'm going to follow Donkey Dow. And this comes right from D13, who is the core engineering lead at the Algorand Foundation. Super smart guy. You know, we've had our disagreements from time to time, but generally speaking, big fan of him. You can unstake your Messina.one mAlgo here. Try a small amount first just to be safe. Link below. Messina.d13.com. So he just made a way to do it. As I mentioned, I'll be sharing this with my live stream on Friday, which is today. You guys are getting this now. Pretty cool, huh? MJ from Algorand says, "Hey, D13, thank you for stepping up yet again. Action, action, action." Krypton says, "You are a legend." He is a legend. Totally agree. You dropped this, got the crown. I like it. So we did it, you know. D13 coming through to save the community. People had their Algorand locked up on Messina.one. Messina.one went dark. Now I'm going to share my own personal story with Messina.one. The guy who was the community manager at Messina.one was also the community manager at Opus. And guess what happened to Opus? Totally rugged the Algorand community. Now, you could call it maybe a rug is like an extreme term. But what happened with Opus, they were like a music app where you could buy basically buy shares of an artist. They had their own coin, of course they did, and they were selling out. And then they announced one day, they took a bunch of money from the Algorand Foundation, by the way, to build their stuff, which is what that, what that building money is supposed to be for. But they built this platform on Algorand and then announced they were going to Avalanche. I believe it was Avalanche. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it was another chain started with an A. I'm pretty sure it was Avalanche. And they were not supporting the Algorand. So I made a video on it, and the community manager, reamed me out because he's like, I don't know what his point was. He didn't really address what I said. I think it's crappy. I think it's crappy to leave. Now, they were going to keep supporting what was already on there, my understanding, but they weren't going to build anything new. So as far as I'm concerned, that's a rug. You're just out. And, he was also involved with Messina.one, which also rugged the community. So you know what? See you later. Good riddance. Well, let's move on to our next item, hopefully a little more positive. We got a couple Algorand folks, the CEO and the CMO for that matter. He's got like 2 roles, doesn't he? I know he's also did we show it here? Well, Chief Strategy and Marketing Officer. So I think that kind of fits, right? That store around the corner. I see you, buddy. I see you. Some people asking about other coins. We'll get to that we'll get to that outside of the segments. But Staci Warden appearing on this big platform. This is a 150,000 subscriber channel. We might watch some of that in another segment, maybe later on. And then we also got Mark Vandelerberg from the Algorand Foundation. He's on with Cointelegraph. And I was surprised they only put this on X. They don't put this on YouTube, which seems like a big miss in my opinion. So maybe this one is gonna be way too long. This one I think we can watch like the first 20 minutes. So we'll do that later on in the stream. So I thought that was worth checking out. Now I mentioned Akita Inu, the coin, but they're actually building. It is not just a meme coin. Mr. Blue Sky here says, if you have any doubts about Akita Social, I am crushing it now. Full docs release so anyone can begin to build on top of Algorand's next gen social media. Let's see what they have to show us here, because I think this is kind of interesting. So here's like the wallet CLI for MCP, agent wallets. So they got this whole thing for, did they spell? No, they just spelled it right. This is all the stuff for using it with agents. Pretty neat, huh? Here's what you can build. You can build programmable wallets, Infinity DAO, social nano payments, access gates, NFT marketplace, and DeFi primitives. Hyperswap, zero fee atomic swaps, universal staking pools for any token, subscriptions, and reward distribution. There's the code if you want it. And so what they're building is basically a social, like a crypto-based social media platform. And the way it's going to work is you have to pay to post and you have to pay to comment, and you can get paid if enough people comment on it. I don't remember all the details exactly, but I've seen ones like this before. I tend to find that they kind of come and go, and people get excited about them for a brief amount of time, and then they just kind of walk away. So we'll see. I hope I'm wrong. I hope it turns out to be really awesome, but like I said, we'll see. And you can actually join the waitlist now. MJ had shared this, which I think is pretty neat. It says, I joined the waitlist for Akita Inu built on Algorand, and your wallet, your rules, your content. Every post, vote, and reply is a direct payment between people. Content rises based on what users spend, not what an algorithm decides. No ads, no engagement farming, just direct value exchange. Which, like I said, I get. I think it's a neat idea how it will work. I guess we'll see. What's going to happen is a few people will be making money on this, and most people will be paying. But yeah, it should prevent against spam, I would imagine, because it's going to cost you. So how much are you going to pay just to, spam posts? I mean, that might be a big thing. I'm definitely going to check it out. I mean, let's be honest. I'm going to check it out. So, but I'm not necessarily holding out a ton of hope that it's going to be like the most amazing thing ever or the most successful, but maybe the Algorand Foundation, maybe the Algorand community will really embrace this, and I'll be totally surprised. I've been wrong before. It kind of reminds me of, there was a video platform that a lot of us Algorand creators were early in on, and we were helping build the platform. And I think the biggest thing was, it was called NifGen. And I think the biggest thing that screwed it up was that they didn't really have a plan for onboarding their first 100 users. So there were very few people. We were supposed to get a cut of the payments from day one. Then they said, no, we can't do that yet until we have 100, basically people playing on the platform. And I was like, well, that's not what the agreement was. And I understand, but that's not making me want to make content. And for whatever reason, I was the only one really making content consistently on there. Like, I thought it was a cool opportunity, but it only worked if like a lot of people were going to make content. So not a lot of people were making content on there, which was frustrating. I'm not really, like I said, I'm not really sure why. I don't think it worked. Eventually I stopped. Now the really sucky thing was I had this series where I was doing experiments, basically doing this DeFi experiment where I was testing them out to see if like you actually made money or you just lost it to price depreciation. Spoiler alert, you mostly lost your funding to price depreciation, way more than you made yield. Even my 100 Algo, I was using that as a benchmark, and $100 worth of, $100 worth of Algorand and $100 worth of Bitcoin. Those are my two benchmarks. Guess what? Way fewer people, Bitcoin did way better than Algorand or anything else. Everyday Algorand says I was one of the content contributors there, and I did not have the same agreement you did. Interesting. Yeah, I think you were making more videos back then, weren't you? Well, I don't know. It was funny because when they first pitched it to us, they had these like kind of insane projections about how much money we would make. And I was like, well, I think that's probably BS, but hey, if it's like an extra $100 a month, like that'd be helpful, So I was like, yeah, I'll get on board with it. I'll try it out. I think when they brought people in on the back end, they probably didn't give them the same deal. I know a lot of people, some of the gaming communities got involved, but they just wanted the access to the audience basically. But nobody was making, I was the only one who was like week out of week. I know C-Will from the Passive Income Network, I think he changed the name now. He made some too, but he made some content too, but I was the only one like consistently every week making a video for it. And then I lost all those videos so I didn't have the beginning of my experiment on YouTube, which kind of sucked. But oh well, it was fun. They paid for a lot of us to go to Dubai, which was kind of cool, or at least a big chunk of it. So, yeah, I think that's all we got for Algorand. I thought that story was kind of interesting, but thanks so much for tuning in for that. We'll watch that video later in the stream once my voice is completely run out, which it happens. Let's see. Land of Cash says, I don't think EVM wallets can attract more users. It's still too complicated to non-crypto, and those who use MetaMask can set up Para and swap. That's one of the things I hate MetaMask, and I think MetaMask is the opposite of good UI. If you want to like scare people away from crypto, try to make them use MetaMask. Exactly. Yeah, no, it was really funny. Back in the day, I was playing around with a game called Gods Unchained. It was on the Immutable X platform, but it used Ethereum. It was an EVM-based thing, and when I was playing it, I couldn't do any of the crypto features they were all turned off because the gas fees were too high. And I was like, why don't you just build on a chain that actually works, like Algorand, right? And one of the issues was, so I didn't play the game for a while. And then I came back to it, and there was like this 10-step process for, you had to connect MetaMask, and there was like this 10-step process to do it. And I got to step 6, and I tried to do what it told me, and it basically told me I couldn't continue because I couldn't do step 6 because I hadn't done step 6. It was basically the loop that I got stuck in. And I'm like, well, I just gave up. I'm like, you know what? This is crazy. It was like 10 steps. I'm like, no. This needs to be like 1 step. Some of the, I think this is starting to go away, but there used to be like this, I call it engineering brain. Like, engineers don't always think well about user experience. They think about, well, I can make it work. So if I can make it work with my engineering brain, then it's fine. And usually it's not fine. You actually have to make it usable for people who don't have an engineering brain. So Hedera is good with their EVM. Anyway, Algo is very unique and is not always, said goo, but did you mean good, I think? J Quartz is back to work for me. Peek at that FAI in the short run. VVV led bot charge and people looking for rides in a stagnant market. Good luck. Have a good weekend. Thank you. By the way, today at the Dev Council, D13 was demonstrating on what he is building, the integration of Algorand to EVM wallets. It's going to work in the similar way as quantum wallets through logic-seg. Interesting. Just trying to catch up, see if I missed anything. I guess not really. Well, I guess we can get on to our Hedera segment now, huh? Let's see where we're going to start. Greenblue says Parallel Wallet usability is probably what I love most about Algorand. I will say, like, from day one, I'd been testing a lot of these different crypto, trying to go beyond just holding coins on Coinbase back in, like, say 2019, 2020, 2021. And I was just so disappointed. Every time I tried something, I would see a YouTube video on it and I would go try it out myself. And there were like 10 things that they didn't tell me. And it just didn't work the way they would show it working. And I'm like, how are people using this stuff? It's so clunky and unusable. I just couldn't understand it. And when I tried Algorand for the first time, first off back in the mAlgo days, but I remember when Yieldy went live, and hey, say what you want about Yieldy. I know it's like kind of the ultimate, the OG rug puller on Algorand, the OG failed project, but like the UI was actually pretty good. Landacash says hashpack on HBAR is similar to para usability. I would agree with that. One thing I don't like is I don't like having to go to my email every time I log into hashpack. I find that kind of annoying. I get the security part of it, but that just irritates me. I'd rather use something else to secure it than that. But overall, yeah, I like hashpack. It's my wallet on HBAR for sure. And speaking of HBAR, we got a segment coming up. Let me get a drink of water. Sorry, I know people hate that. Para card requires KYC, whereas pure DeFi then. Yeah, the Para, I guess the Para card, I haven't used it yet. The actual payment card, perhaps, like just using Para though doesn't. But that's not DeFi, is it? Because you're using MasterCard anyway. All right, we're moving on to Hedera now. This G20 central bank just went live with HBAR technology. We're talking about the Reserve Bank of Australia. That's 24 use cases and 19 real-world applications. This is big news. We're going to dive into this on our Hedera segment, so tune in. This is from King Solomon, one of my friends of the channel. I think his Genfinity does great work. And here's what he's got to share. A G20 central bank just went live with HBAR technology, Reserve Bank of Australia. And I think we had talked about this before in previous segments. It's actually live live trials are going on right now. 24 use cases, 19 real world transactions, fixed income, private markets, trade receivables. So this is for real, man. This isn't just some test. This is actually happening right now. HashFear built by Hashgraph, interoperability built by HGraph. They got a lot of like really similar sounding things, by the way. Hedera Council member, Australian payments plus coordinated. This is not a sandbox, not a simulation. Live trials, real money, national payment system. This is basically. This goes into it a little deeper. HashFear for tokenized asset infrastructure, AP plus settlement coordination, HGraph interoperability layer, institutional wallets, private network, public interoperability as needed. Australian payments plus Hedera Council member, digital assets live on national. It'd be nice if they wrote these as an actual narrative. Also kind of wish they centered this a little more. Australia's Reserve Bank has selected Hedera as one of the distributed ledger platforms for Project Acacia, its flagship wholesale CBDC initiative. The RBA named Hedera alongside Red Belly Network, R3, Corda, and Canvas Connect for pilot wholesale CBDC issuance as part of the joint effort with the Digital Finance Cooperative Research Center. Australian Payments Plus, the national payments scheme operator and Hedera Council member, deployed a private HashFear network specifically for the project's regulatory requirements. HashFear is Hashgraph's enterprise blockchain solution built with Hedera technology, allowing regulated institutions to operate private permission networks while maintaining interoperability with public infrastructure. Lots of stuff going on here. Mike Mars saying bullish on HBAR more than any other token. I get that. Someone just asked about if there's any HBAR news. Well, I'll tell you what, we got some huge news right here. That is Tyrone Bigham's asking, and yes, we have lots of HBAR news going on right here, and this is probably the biggest one. Now, I have my concerns about CBDCs. Let's just be clear. But hey, this is from Token Nicer, kind of showing it. Multiple government entities, private sector finance, private DLT with R3 Corda, layer 2 solutions with Canvas, and public DLTs with HBAR and RBNT. This is launched in 2024. So I think if you're going to have this, you definitely want, if you're an HBAR fan, you definitely want this use case. That means transactions printing means revenue for the DLT for Hedera. And that tends to move price from what I've seen. But it's just good news. It's just good news of DLT doing stuff in the real world. And this comes on the back of the FedEx news. Imagine FedEx minting all its supply, all its packaging on Hedera on the DLT. That would be a big deal, right? By the way, DLT standing for Digital Ledger Technology, in case you didn't know. We actually got more Hedera news, though. That's just one of our many things we've got to talk about. So let's see. Let's go back to the top. $400 million RWA opportunity. HBAR is one of the biggest winners. Now, this is more of an analysis post than it is news exactly. But Securitize just highlighted the insane stat. 400 trillion in assets are waiting to be tokenized. This is extremely bullish for HBAR. HBAR already ranks number 1 in RWA development activity. We shared that news last week. Fortune 500 Governance Council with Google, IBM, FedEx, also Dell on there, by the way. Some big names on there: ABFT security, hybrid public-private capabilities. I think that private aspect is why Hedera is starting to appeal to many of these enterprise companies. They definitely have really stood up for in the enterprise space. It can realistically capture 0.5% to 2% of the tokenized market long term. Price impact: more tokenized volume equals higher network usage, fee burn, TVL growth, and institutional capital inflows. Combined with the Clarity Act tailwinds, well, we're still waiting for that, by the way. That is not a done deal. I wouldn't count on that for sure. ETF momentum and FedEx adoption. And, we got to see if they actually adopt it. Just because they're there doesn't mean it's working. It doesn't mean they're actually doing it. But anyway, combined with Clarity Act tailwinds, ETF momentum, and FedEx adoption, this sets up strong price appreciation in the 30 to 60 cent range in 2026. I'd be careful of these. I'm always really careful. I do think increased revenue tends to lead to stronger price appreciation, but there's no guarantee here, so be careful with that. Who knows what the market's going to do, and I don't think it's. And Everyday Algonaut is talking about the CBDC, going back to an article from July 10th. Yeah, it's been talked about before. It's just now that the tests are actually live. In the real world, there's a real pilot going on. Anyway, this is definitely interesting. They have their asset tokenization studio. Hedera tends to build studios around narratives they think will be, I wouldn't say narratives, around things that they think will be useful. I think that's very interesting. I should be following this person, huh? Also, never be a maxi. That's my advice to you. But hey, I think Hedera set itself up well for tokenization, and it will absolutely, probably be a strong help for Hedera. Just how much remains to be seen. And I thought this was interesting. We've been talking about the Canary HBAR ETF, which every time I bring this up, I point out that I was totally wrong about this. I thought the market wasn't ready. I think Wall Street wasn't ready for an HBAR ETF, and I was totally wrong. They now have 1.3% of the token supply. So just not that long ago, we talked about 1% of the supply. Now 1.3%. They keep adding. Canary Spot Hedera ETF saw $655,000 in net inflows on Tuesday. And I think if I remember right, I think we shared this on Tuesday, that there's only been 1 day of negative flows on the Hedera ETF. I think I remember that. So that's pretty impressive. I thought this was interesting too, just kind of wrapping up some stats around it. 2.4 seconds to true finality, 10K TPS. Still waiting for that to be tested, by the way. Algorand, what I will say is Algorand had 15,000 TPS in the wild, like actual transactions going on, not just theoretical, but it is a 10K max. It'll be interesting to see that get tested. No front running. That's no MEV, no front running because of the way the Hedera timestamps work. I think the ordering is really specific. Very, very smart. Not something that you can do on Solana. I wouldn't put EVM as a plus, but that's just me. I thought they had more, let's see, 71 billion transactions processed. Leading RW development, we shared that. We shared that last week, or it was Tuesday, I think. Institutional adoption accelerating with HBAR ETFs now holding over 1% of the supply, which we just said accelerate. So, yeah, I think that's pretty. That's a pretty good summation. PSA McLaren NFT event pushed back to 4 p.m. GMT today, but the event is coming. A drop for the McLaren F1 limited edition collectibles. And they'll be available to mint for free, which is interesting. Now, we talked about this, the partnership between McLaren and Hedera, coming out around the same time that Ferrari partnered with Algorand. So that's kind of neat, huh? Anyway, I just thought that was kind of neat that it's coming. I have no idea what you do to get this. This was, I don't know what GMT time is compared to your time, but you'll have to do a little work to find that. But you'll have till March 19th. I'm guessing these are going to go fast, but I don't know how many there are. We'll have to look into that. But if you're interested in that, you might want to head on over to McLaren. I imagine they have that. And check that out. And then I thought this was interesting. Now this is old news. This was announced like last year that Chainlink is integrated with Hedera. But they're kind of selling it here. So let's just see what it says. Built to connect bridges and interoperability. What does Chainlink do? It provides a centralized Oracle infrastructure that connects blockchains to real world data. One of the more unique use cases, in my opinion, for crypto, I think it's pretty smart that I think it's smart that Hedera linked up with Chainlink. Enables smart contracts to securely access real-world data, connects multiple blockchain networks allowing assets. Okay, that was way too fast. Connects multiple blockchain networks allowing assets and information to move across ecosystems and provides transparent verification of asset backing, which is critical for tokenized assets and institutional adoption. Key benefits: reliable data infrastructure, secure interoperability, and greater transparency with the proof of reserves, which I think is really smart. One of the smartest things Chainlink has done. I think a lot of other chains or DLTs or what have you ought to do something similar. And that's it. I just found it interesting that I've been seeing a lot of people talking about it lately, which is kind of interesting. They do have some case studies you can dive into on the main page as well. Anyway, I think that concludes our Hedera segment, but lots of good stuff ahead. You know, Algorand and Hedera, probably my two favorites, especially from the technical aspect. I like what both of them are doing. DLT seems to be getting more enterprise attention, I've noticed, which is interesting. So that ought to lead to price appreciation at some point. I think the price action has been better, frankly, but I like both, and I like playing around in Algorand the most. It's because I have the most familiarity with it. Looking forward to diving into Hedera a little more. Be curious when that game comes out, how that does. But, all right. Well, thanks everyone for watching that. Chat went a little quiet. So yeah, when I do my segments, I can't always respond to. Algorand had already 50,000 transactions when it was benchmarked. Land of Cash says Para can't fix 2 critical bugs we reported 6 months ago. That's not good. You know, I pointed out something too. The history tab. I don't know if it works now. Maybe it does. I can actually look. I don't know. This may be not a good idea for me to look right now, but oh yeah. I'm just curious about that. Let me see. Oh yeah, it works a lot better. At least on my old iPhone, it really didn't work very well. But yeah, okay, that's good. Do the scroll. Anyway, I think we're gonna watch that video next. And I think that's where we'll kind of cap things off. So let me find that. What did I do with it? Yeah, just take me a second here. By the way,
I'm Ashton Addison from.
If you have not hit the like and subscribe button yet, please feel free to do so. Helps, like button helps show it to other people. And like I always say, you don't have to smash it. You can just press it gently and it works just fine that way too. We got a video coming up with Staci Warden. By the way, if you're not subscribed already, please subscribe to the channel so you can see all our videos as we post them. We go live on Tuesdays and Fridays, and we post in between that. We post segments for you to watch at your leisure, and you can watch the lives as well. So, well, we got here an interview between Staci Warden and the Crypto Coin Show, 150,000 subscribers. So that's a nice way to, a nice channel to get on for Staci, nice exposure for Algorand. And we're going to watch the first maybe 20 minutes of this. There's a long talk about Afghanistan, and I'll save that for you guys if you want to watch that. But we'll watch this together. We'll react. We'll see how she did. Let me set this up here. Okay. That's probably pretty good. This is Ashton Addison, CEO of the Crypto Coin Show, talking with Staci Warden. Let's see what she has to say.
From the Crypto Coin Show, and today on Blockchain Interviews, we have Staci Warden, CEO of Algorand Foundation, here to discuss Algorand's latest direction, real-world impacts, and where the ecosystem and the industry is headed. Staci, welcome to the show, and thanks for taking the time.
Thanks, Ashton. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, likewise. I've been following Algorand over the many years, having the team on around the launch 7-8 years ago now, and it's amazing to see the foundation still doing strong, the U.S. regulatory environment waking up and understanding the original vision, and now further integrating into the mainstream outside of just.
Yeah, interesting. That means he was around from the botched launch where it launched at like 328. Never gotten close to that again. Just something I have to point out. Interesting that I was around that whole time.
The crypto natives and financial system, stable coins, payments, humanitarian aid, all the ways that blockchain can help the world. I would love to start off our conversation with a high level from you on, for those who haven't followed closely, as of recently, a lot's happened with Algorand. Can you talk about how Algorand is best positioned to grow over the next few years from recent events?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's worth saying that since you first learned about Algorand, we haven't gone down for 1 nanosecond in that over 6 years that we've been in existence.
Important.
But, yeah. So, when I arrived, our tagline was the future of finance. And I was like, oh boy, marketing startup, grandiose tagline. This is a little, but as the years have gone by, we have really honed in on that vertical. And it really is, of course, not just Algorand is the future of finance, but it's aspirationally true for us, for sure. And
it's also really broad. And that's one of the things I will say about Algorand that might be one of its biggest hurdles is that I think a lot of coins, the projects that do really well have a very specific niche. I struggle with that because I kind of get like the vision. I understand the point of it, why you would say that, why you would, set yourself up that way. But I think it's hard to, with so many cryptocurrencies, without a really specific niche that you can point to, it can be kind of tough to stand out.
And we are incredibly focused on issues around finance and financial empowerment, access to capital, permissionless access, all the things that, are some of the core values of crypto. And we think we can win in that space because the technology is very performant in ways that finance cares about. Instant finality, high throughput, that kind of thing. So
it is really good tech. That's 100% true.
We've been pretty mission aligned in this vertical since the beginning, actually.
Definitely. I completely agree. And there's so much capital in traditional finance. We've started to see a lot of it come in through ETFs, but there's still so much to come in actual blockchain infrastructure, tokenized plays and stablecoin payments moving through instead of just fiat. Where do you think the blockchain infrastructure stands today in the stage? Are we still in experimental phase or early adoption or approaching foundational status in the eyes of TradFi?
I will say approaching foundational status if you put a lot of emphasis on approaching. We are, of course, still very small compared to the huge financial markets. But when I look at my cocktail party life, as I'm sure your cocktail party life is the same. It used to be that, Bitcoin and crypto were used interchangeably as nouns, and you don't see that so much anymore. It used to be that.
Maybe in normie land, like that's still really very much the case. I find I would say it kind of depends on the age of the people, but amongst the older set, like they just like Bitcoin is crypto. Like they just don't. They'll say like, "Oh, there's other Bitcoins," right? Like, that's the kind of stuff you'll hear. So, I don't know what kind of circles they run in, but like the ones I run in, like it's there's like not a lot of awareness of cryptos outside of Bitcoin. That's why the HBAR ETF, like its success, really surprised me. I didn't expect there to be that much adoption. So I don't know. It kind of, like I said, it kind of depends on the circles you're running in and the age ranges of those circles.
Algorand, what is Algorand doing to the environment? And there's this understanding now that there are lightweight chains and there are more environmentally impactful chains. There is a little bit of a distinction now between crypto and blockchain, and those are not exactly the same thing. So I think in the public discourse is definitely one good indication of the fact that people are getting used to the idea that digital assets are here. They're here to stay. They are going to converge to some extent with traditional finance. It's not going to take over traditional finance, but there are going to be products and there's going to be infrastructure that can make the entire financial system better. And I think that is probably, despite the nonsense that is in crypto, I think that broader narrative that blockchain can bring things to finance more broadly is much more entrenched now.
I completely agree, and I'm glad people are starting to understand the difference and the value in the blockchain technology part, and that Bitcoin is a blockchain, but most likely for TradFi, it's not the blockchain that they're going to be using because it serves a totally different purpose. And that technology that can be put into traditional finance under other chains, like Algorand, for example, serves a very different and unique purpose, different than Bitcoin.
Yeah, and Ashton, I think you're an important part of helping us tell that story and getting that narrative out to the broader public. You have, what do you have, over 100 million followers, 100,000 followers, and so it's these kinds of shows that help a lot.
Definitely.
Is he Mr. Beast up here? He ain't got no 100 million followers, but yeah, it is a big channel. Oddly enough, this one's only gotten 1,000, like 1,100 views. In fact, here, I'll show you. Oops, hold on. Yeah, 1,093. So, I guess I'm surprised, like with a show that size, that it only got 1,000 so far. As you can see, like, this live stream will get that much, and I'm not even close to that size. But hopefully it helps gets the word out a little more. I think if it was on my channel, I think it would get way more views actually, because I have an audience that's like really cares about Algorand and Hedera, and I think even Chainlink and maybe Polygon a bit to an extent. And
we're happy to syndicate to TradFi networks and get it into the eyes of the old money as well as the young crypto generation. And that's all converging. And an important part, I think, for Algorand is this recent moving into the United States more directly. Can you talk about that? What happened with Algorand, and then we can dive into the U.S. jurisdiction and regulation.
Yeah, we did a couple of things all together at once. So first, we did move our jurisdiction to the United States. We used to be, we had a jurisdiction in Singapore before, so we moved to the United States. We became a for-profit entity in the United States, and we completely revamped our board. And so now we have a board of crypto and policy and regulatory heavyweights, payments heavyweights. We are in the United States. We have the ability to make money if we want to. Of course, we still act like a nonprofit. If we were to make
Actually, I still haven't really heard a good explanation of why they switched from for-profit to from nonprofit to for-profit. I don't know that they really got donations, which is one of the hardest parts from switching from nonprofit to for-profit. Because you can't just do that if you got donations. Like, you have to kind of like unwind those donations. It's a really sticky part. But I really want to know more about the why of it. My guess, usually being by the way, the differences aren't that extreme. Like, people think, I don't think people understand like the differences. Like, it's not that different. You just can't, you can still make money as an organization. You just can't, no individual can profit from it. You can't pull profits out of a nonprofit. It stays within the organization, but it doesn't mean they can't generate money. A lot of times what'll happen is someone, if the board approves like a really high salary, like, they can still be pretty lucrative in a way, but there usually is more flexibility around a for-profit versus a nonprofit. And that's probably why I think she's sort of alluding to that, but I think that's really, Cash says they make money really. What are you talking about? What do you mean they? Are you talking about the foundation, or are you talking about nonprofits? Nonprofits can bring in revenue. It's just the money stays within the organization. I think a lot of people don't understand that. Like, so they'll end up with like this cash position, and they usually put it towards doing the things that they do. Like, I'm not saying like they're not legitimate. Like, if you're a organization that buys mosquito nets and you bring in all this money for mosquito nets, you can put more. Algorand says Everyday Algorand says they did pull profit from nonprofit through lending money. See it in the quarterly reports. Yeah, so there's some mechanisms. I'm just saying, like, you can't directly like, hey, I'm Joe Schmo and I started this company, Algorand Foundation, and the Algorand blockchain itself. I don't know. They're losing money. By the way, just to be clear, the Algorand Foundation is losing money. They're not gaining money right now. In fact, they're selling Algorand to fund operations. This is the big issue. I'm guessing he's not going to bring this up. Would be my flat out guess, but they're actually selling. We can see this in the quarterly reports, like Everyday Algorand says. You can see them selling Algorand. That's putting downward price pressure every month. They said they were going to do that, and then they're doing it again because they have to. And what happens? They only have so much money left. They probably got like 2 years of runway. So they need to start generating revenue to fund operations. Probably need to trim their operation, if I'm being honest. I don't think they can afford to keep doing what they're doing. And they're not going to like that. No, people aren't going to like that, but it's the reality of the situation. Now they're talking about uncapping supply. I don't know if he's going to ask about that. It'd be interesting if he does. But if Algorand uncaps supply, I think a lot of people are just going to be out. Everyday says, FrugalBC, can you ask them to give you the corporate details? I really wonder how they state who is the owner of the Algorand Foundation. I'd be very curious to learn more about that. Asher Mink says, just raise fees. It's very easy. It was the whole plan all along. Get people to use the tech and raise the fees. Still would be very low. I think their plan all along was that the price would go up, and that would mean more money in fees, and also more users would be using it at this point, and so they'd have this money coming in. It just hasn't happened. And they'll get something like TravelX, and then all of a sudden TravelX will go, oh, you know what, we're not going to use the blockchain. Our big airline people, potential clients, they just aren't interested in it. Now they can raise the fees. Hedera did this seemingly with very little reaction. There was a little bit of chatter when it happened, and then I've just seen nothing. I haven't seen it become an issue since they raised it. Was it about a year ago? I can't remember exactly. We covered it. I just can't remember when it is. But Everyday Algorand actually anticipating my next point. It's not that easy because the smart contracts actually have the fee hard-coded into the smart contracts. Not the first person I've heard that from. And that's one of the reasons why it would be difficult. I think they have to... I'm not sure. Well, maybe Ludo would know more than I would what you actually have to do to change that. But yeah, so some very big challenges coming up. I'm guessing this is going to be kind of softball and we're not going to get this, but maybe we will.
Profits, we wouldn't distribute them. We would pour that money right back into the kinds of things that the foundation has already done. But it does give us more opportunities to kind of think more broadly about what we want to do. And so all of these, and we have.
And sorry, that is the other point to make. Like, just because you're a for-profit company doesn't mean you actually take profit either. You can keep that in there as well. Asher says you can grandfather those. Yeah, we'll see.
Been very careful in the past, and I think this is anticipating your next question a little bit, to stay clear of the U.S. regulatory perimeter. But now we are all in, and it's a huge market, and we're very excited to be there, and we're very excited to be part of the America First story for digital assets, and we deserve to be there. We were, as you know, founded out of MIT, one of the most important and prestigious universities in the United States. We were founded by one of the most important and prestigious cryptographers in the United States, and the core chain was built in the United States, and so we're kind of coming back where we belong more than anything else, I would say, at this point.
Yeah, it is very exciting, and I went through the same thing in my early days around when Algorand was starting, also incorporating in Singapore, because the innovation, they saw it ahead, and it's really nice to have the green flag in the United States, where the biggest financial markets in the world are. We need to have that infrastructure that's going to evolve those right here, because every second matters, and being close, although decentralized as well, being close and in the jurisdiction is important.
Yeah. I mean, we would contort ourselves in all kinds of crazy ways too. One that I found particularly annoying was that we have some incentive, like, how regular companies might have stock options or something. So we have performance crypto that we can earn. And me as as the CEO of the foundation, I could not get crypto. I could not get Algos because we wouldn't issue Algos in the United States, and I'm a US citizen, right? So they would send me my, a little Algo allotment and immediately convert it into dollars and pay me in dollars, because we were so careful about this. But it's a bad look, right, for the CEO. Of course, I have on my own purchased plenty of Algos, but it's a bad look for the CEO not to be holding on to the stock of the company or the coin of the company that they're. And so these are things that, like, now our US employees can earn.
Did she just make a mistake calling it the stock of the company? Like, the whole thing is like, this isn't supposed to be like a shared enterprise, which a stock is. It's a security. Maybe she feels comfortable now that Trump is in charge that she can say that, but that might have been a misstep there.
Earn Algos and keep them the way that our regular, our worldwide employees can. There are other just things with committees and having meetings in the Cayman Islands, making sure big decisions were not made in the United States, being worried about, am I going to get a call from the Department of Justice, being worried about bank accounts, like all that stuff is very, and we are a place that tries not to do anything wrong. You know what I mean? And all this stuff was so distracting to us. And so we're, as much as anything else, just happy that we can, like, spend our time doing our day job, not worrying about if something that we didn't think we did wrong turned out to be wrong or something like that,
Definitely. There's huge hurdles that we see in other countries, in the levels of bureaucracy and hurdles that the reason that outside of crypto in the US have made it such a great place to do business. And it was just that one thing about crypto and blockchain technology, because it's new. It was like in this different category that it's like, you got to watch out. And it really put a hindrance on the innovation. And now that that's switched over the last couple of years here, the race is on. We need to continue green lighting and going all in to be the crypto capital of the world. And Algorand, and I'm sure you guys are going all in on it. And I'd love to hear your take on the recent regulation, like, for example, the Genius Act in the US and the Clarity Act, and how those actually relate to Algorand being able to do the work that you need to do inside the US.
Yeah, I mean, so I think the biggest unlock we've had is the Genius Act, of course, right? And that has been very important to us. And we would like, as an industry, to have the Clarity Act passed, of course. And there was a bit of a discussion, shall we say, as to whether it's good enough now or whether we should hold out to make sure certain key provisions are in there. And I personally am of the mind that you just get legislation enacted, and you can always improve it. There is no legislation is not frozen once it's enacted. You have an opportunity through rulemaking to improve things and fix things, and that's the case with all kinds of legislation. So we tend now to act cautiously but opportunistically around these things, right? And so for us, when you have an unlock that we can now offer things to US customers, the rest is a little bit like a cherry on top, right? So we are now mostly focused on offering the kinds of things that other customers around the globe can offer, and making sure that the protocols that build on Algorand have an opportunity also to serve US customers. That's the most important thing for us. And stablecoin legislation, because stablecoins, as everybody knows now, is so fundamental to crypto. That's going to be a big part of it, of course.
Definitely, I agree. And from what I saw following the Clarity Act being pushed down, Brian Armstrong of Coinbase was advocating for that as as head of the crypto community and the younger people across social media, that there were things that were going to hurt DeFi, or sort of the nature of what the crypto punks wanted, and that's why he didn't want to push for it at the end.
But things that were going to hurt Coinbase.
Yeah, exactly. It's one thing, hurt the crypto community and hurt Coinbase, of course. So yeah,
look, we have all free ridden a bit on Brian Armstrong's excellent policy machine. So I am I have nothing to say about that, of course. But he as an exchange, he has specific things that he's quite interested in. In this case, the ability to pay interest on stablecoins is a very important agenda item for him. But I think more broadly, we just need to be. We don't want to be the red-headed stepchild. We want to be treated appropriately, regulatorily appropriately, and have a right to exist, and not be worried about if you can't, get a bank account. I was sitting at a Fed breakfast, and I was sitting next to Toliet from Solana, and he said, one of his engineers was trying to get a mortgage, and he couldn't get a mortgage approved from his bank because he worked at Solana. So this is the kind of thing that's just.
Asher Mink says agentic payments on Algorand have increased significantly over the last 30 days. Is there a way you're using to track that? It'd be really interesting to look at. You know, like I was saying earlier in the broadcast, I actually coded some new tools to do on-chain investigation work with, and I just use Codex. I just made it right in Codex. It's super easy to use. I'm so far really, really liking Codex. I bought the $20 a month plan from OpenAI. I actually used their free trial to test it out. So you might be seeing more of that kind of stuff from me in the future. But yeah, if you got a source for that, I'd like to check that out.
Yeah, no, it's like now we have a seat at the table, but it's the kid seat on the corner. You know?
A little bit, yeah. We're not exactly. We're a little.
Yeah, so we need to upgrade, to have a fair say. Yeah. And I want to dive into stablecoins more because it's so important. You're right, and especially when there's volatility, and if we want smaller businesses, larger enterprises, and things outside of the financial industry as well, just to run faster and more efficiently, stablecoins is there. On Algorand's side with payments, settlements, stablecoins, how are you guys using Algorand sort of help outside of crypto and financial industry with stablecoin payments?
Well, we are the rails that stablecoins that companies can use. So we're the rails that you can run stablecoins on, and so we bring something to the party that is quite different than other chains, and that is the fact that our finality is instant. And so when you have, in particular, a stablecoin, and you are promising to give $1 back for every $1 stablecoin that a customer redeems, you can't have, even for a nanosecond, especially with a bunch of bots running around. Two versions of that world, even for a little bit, right? Where you have to redeem potentially $2, or you get $2 for the one stablecoin that you redeem. So we are very focused on this area and making sure that we can be a big player in payments. And when we think about payments, particularly, this is of course quite early days. We think about agentic payments. We think about merchants maybe that can take
agentic payments is going to be huge for Algorand. Land of Cash says agentic payments increase from 0 to 1. I don't think it's 0 to 1. They've already been done. We watched it live like months ago. We watched Gold Plausible make these payments, do demonstrations where these agents were paying each other, which is pretty cool, I thought. Land of Cash says, or say Everyday Algonaut, otherwise known as Ludo, says, I really hope they will not uncap. I am really waiting for 2030 for the scarcity to take the price off to the moon. If they uncap, there will be huge sell pressure. I think that's 100% true. A lot of people they talk about the scarcity of it. Scarcity is only one supply. You need only one side of it. You need demand as well. And so I think a lot of people are saying, hey, there's like 86% of the supply is out. So it doesn't matter because the demand isn't there for the supply that's out. I don't think it's a good idea for the uncap. I really don't. I think uncapping, while I've heard arguments that it could be actually workable, and they could make it actually deflationary if they had a burn mechanism that did it right. But here's the problem. No one's going to go for it because everyone's waiting for that supply to be out. They want that scarcity. It's kind of one of the only things going for it, I think you get rid of the scarcity aspect. I think a lot of people are just going to dump. It's just going to be the end. I mean, there's some people are going to hang on no matter what, but I think there's a big chunk of people they'll be out. That's it. So
a payment from an agent, and take that payment and give that merchandise.
And by the way, agentic commerce, that's where the demand comes from. I really think so. It's where the demand will come from. It's where the revenue will come from. When you get revenue, that's when you see price appreciation. It just I've seen the correlation too much. It's too obvious to me.
Immediately, but prefer to be paid maybe on credit card rails or banking rails. And you aren't going to be able to do that unless you have certainty that when the payment is made in stablecoins, it's on the ledger. It can't be messed with. It can't be revoked. It can't go back. Transactions are not going to be reversed. And then you can kind of wait for payments if you want to your traditional rails, if you want. That's the kind of thing that you can only do on the Algorand blockchain. Now, stablecoin payments more broadly, you can do on any blockchain, almost any blockchain you want. But things like this are they're niche use cases, but they're niche use cases that we're trying to drive a truck through because you can only do it on Algorand. We also have a lot of momentum in humanitarian payments and in stablecoins that are denominated not just in dollars. Of course, dollars are the majority of stablecoins, but we run an Afghani stablecoin. An Afghani stablecoin runs on Algorand rails. Like, it's kind of a crazy thing to imagine.
Do you guys even know about that? I guess it must, because that must be how Hasab Pay worked. But that's the first time I've heard anyone talk about the Afghani stablecoin. Is it Afghani, or what do they call their money? I don't even know.
But there's an Afghani stablecoin running on Algorand rails used by international humanitarian organizations to make payments to the recipients, women and aid recipients in Afghanistan.
By the way, I like that, because so much of this money can't be tracked. It's just you send it overseas and it goes to some dictator, gets his hand in it, and that's the end of it. So I like the idea that they can actually get some of this. They can actually get it to the people and actually bring it in. Land of Cash says from chain profits only. No, I'm just talking about revenue. You look at revenue, look at the chains that have revenue, they tend to have price appreciation. Just the way it is. The ones that don't.
The Taliban is very aware of this. The Central Bank of Afghanistan understands that this is happening, but they appreciate the transparency and the speed and the money, of course, that this enables. And so everybody understands what's happening and everybody sees the benefits of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's really interesting.
Land of Cash is not possible. There's not enough at current fee rate. Well, I agree. I think the fees are too low. I really do. But it kind of depends if the price appreciates enough. It's kind of like a double-edged sword, or what would you call it? Catch-22, because if the price would appreciate and they would raise fees, that could be really huge. That's why I thought Hedera was smart in taking that out of the equation, because they denominate their fees in dollars or cents, I guess, or fractions of a cent. But it doesn't change with the price of the coin. So the coin can tank and the price remains the same. They're still making the same revenue. They don't gain it on the other side too, which is interesting. It's a choice. I think that stability, I think a lot of the reasons enterprise like Hedera, besides, all the big names on their governing council, that's a big status signal. It matters. You might not think it does, but you know what? If you're the CFO of, whatever Acme company, and you're like, hey, we want to get involved with crypto, you're going to cover your butt by saying like, hey, this crypto organization has Google and LG and Dell and FedEx on board on their governing council. Like, that's something you can point to and say, yeah, they seem to be respected because they have all these big names. You think that stuff doesn't matter? It matters for sure.
With the humanitarian aid, one of the questions I have with regards to stablecoins, because they're becoming so many options on other chains, and so many companies, even traditional like PayPal, etc., are creating their own stablecoins. That a lot of it needs to move to the back end, or people get confused. It goes back to which chain or which L2. I have to be compatible with yours if I want to send you this USDC, but then we got a bridge and all that stuff that we need to get rid of, that all the crypto people know about. How do you guys make it easy for companies that might be accepting, first there's the credit card on
the first non-softball question, by the way? It's good. It's a good question.
ramp, off ramp with fiat, or if there's other chains, does it have to be compatible?
Yeah, this is a very interesting question, because what I think is going to happen is that there's going to be a pendulum shift where everybody's going to want to have their own stablecoin. I really believe this to be true. And this is starting to happen, and it's going to happen more and more and more. And it's going to be kind of a pain in the ass for everybody. And I do think the pendulum will eventually shift back. But if you imagine somebody like Amazon, right? They have a lot of suppliers all over the world. Exxon has something like, somebody told me, 3,900 different bank accounts, because they're trying to maintain these correspondent banking relationships all over the world. Now, if you're Amazon and you have suppliers that you need to pay, you have to keep money in these banking relationships in all of these countries. Or, you could issue a stablecoin to your suppliers, keep all your money in JP Morgan, where you feel it's much more safe. You have to worry a little bit about the liquidity, of course, in these countries, but it's just a much better way, much more efficient way to do things. And so that's one piece. The second piece is, if you're using Tether, why is Tether getting all the economics? How come I can't get some of the economics? How come I can't share some of the economics with my customers, right? So like, this kind of thing is going to be, I think, whittled away, and different different institutions are going to want to own that economics. They're going to want to own their own destiny with stablecoin. So I do think we're going to have this proliferation. Then that raises, though, some of the questions that you talked about. We're going to need bridging that can go, so that you can go from stablecoin to stablecoin.
Okay, so I don't know if they're doing this, but this just made me think. All right, you've got this, you got this use case for stablecoins. Is there a salesperson at Algorand who's going to enterprises and say, hey, you got this problem? Going to, especially with international companies, going, hey, we can save you a ton of money if you use our stablecoin to make payments between different departments in different countries. Are they doing that? Because like, if you're actually doing it, why not, right? Like, it would make sense, right? To me, that's like, yeah, get this going. You start getting these companies on board. I think you could charge them a small fee for it, some kind of fee that would make economic sense. I don't know how much that would be. I don't know how much they're saving. If you're saving them $100,000 a year, well, I think you could charge like $20,000 and start doing more, start stacking those. Like, that would be some actual revenue coming in to Algorand to fund operations. Also, it would be, all those people would be using the chain. If they're not doing this, I hope they should be doing this. You don't need like 5 branding people. You need someone going out and actually making some sales. Especially now if it's a business, right? It's a for-profit entity now. So go make some sales. Go sell some stuff. Everyday Argonaut says, by the way, Hisab Pay is not the miracle company. They are the electronic money issuer. They cannot let users have the money in self-custody. They're holding assets. Yeah, but think how useful it probably is for those people. I think most of those people are just not going to give a crap. I really do. So Asher Mink says, look at the February report. Active users went down, but 10%, but transactions are up. Well, it just could be fewer people are making more transactions too. I mean, I'm not saying it could be that, but it could be agentic payments, but we don't know that. Landa Cash says, did you make any agentic payments yourself or know someone who uses this? Yeah, I'm not using OpenClaw. I just started using Codex, so I would say not myself, no. Again, I don't know for sure. I do think it's going to be a big use case going forward, but right now, I know some people are building bots and things and that would use, building bots on Algorand, trading bots, that kind of thing. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I think it's still a future use case. It'd be interesting to ask the Go Plausible people. They'd probably know, huh? Well, listen, we're a little over time, so I think we're going to cap it. We're actually going to cap it off there. If you guys want to see this, it is on the Crypto Coin Show. I'm going to give it a like. Give a little appreciation to seeing the Algorand on there. We gave him a view too, so there you go. But yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed today's show. I think we had a good, lively discussion as we tend to, so appreciate that. We will be back on Tuesday with more Algorand, Hedera, Chainlink, Polygon, some kind of news. We'll have more crypto news for you. Otherwise, hope everyone's doing well out there. Stay safe. Have a good weekend, guys. And he will